We really appreciate your interest in this. And just as a reminder to everybody that this is an informational webinar for the district. There are two kinds. One is informational and one is advocacy. When the district is involved, and as you can see, I'm in my office with the Lansing moniker behind me. You have folks from the district as part of this. This is about bringing information to the community. There's a separate piece where there's advocacy, and that's a pretty bright line between what the school district can do and what others in the community can do. So today is really just going to be about information about the bond. And of course, you can ask any questions you want. And there is a question and answer function in the webinar Zoom thing. And certainly if you have any questions, Jeff, who's the director of technology, will happily begin. So John, you want to throw the first slide up? Okay. Let us see. All right. As I said, all right, we've got 20 seconds until 6:05. So we can be, again, respectful of everybody's time, but understanding that sometimes people have a little bit of technology concerns. All right. All right, so here's what we have. There is an opportunity to have a 0 mil increase bond to support Lansing's future. Next slide, please. In 2015, the district did a needs assessment. What basically that means is they just kind of went into the school district and they looked at all of our buildings and, all of our facilities, and they said, what would it take to really bring all of our buildings up to a kind of modern day, ready to rock and roll for our kids situation. And it looked about $340 million, which is quite a lot. There's a lot of deferred maintenance. There's a lot of buildings that really have concerns. And so $340 million was what the needs assessment in 2015 was. And then in 2016, the wonderful district of Lansing passed a bond, and that was for $120 million. So if you just do the math, 340 minus 120, that brings us down to a kind of a needs of 220, but that was in 2016, and time rolls on. So by 2018, the needs assessment for the district was about $244 million. And now 4 years later, the needs are even higher. They're anywhere between 275 million to about 300 million. You can imagine what happens, just year after year of deferred maintenance and of things that the building needs. And so we have an opportunity, is that this year we could, if the voters so choose, pass a 0 mil increase bond, meaning that the bond tax rate would stay the same. So you would be paying basically the same taxes from 2021 to 2022. And this would net us over the course of many years, $129.7 million, just under 130 million. And the election is, of course, on May 3rd. So if you so choose, you can do that. But, I'm new to the district. And honestly, even if I was born here, I would never think that I knew all the answers, that I knew what was best for the community. What we care very deeply about right now, certainly since I've gotten here, is spending a lot of time trying to get the voice of others involved. Now, I'm sure we certainly could have done more, but one of the things that we're really proud of, and this is not just for the bond, this is for, you can go back to the slide before, John. This is really about all what we're doing. We're doing this with special ed. We're doing this with instruction. We're doing with a lot of our approach is to really get community input when making these decisions. And so there were surveys, and we'll get to what we did, but it's really about getting the community to say, here's the things that we're really interested in. Could we have a bond for that? So the next slide shows you what we did. Is we had community forums, this being one of them, and we've had a bunch over the course of the last couple of months. I was just with the Eastern Alumni Association. I've been at community meetings. I've tried to go as everywhere I can, and so has the staff. We've had community surveys, and then we also had a bond committee. These were kind of leaders of the community, people like Brian Beverly, who was on the school board as professor at MSU, Kelly Dean, Sarah Anthony, Peter Spatterfor, a lot of people that have been really active in the community for many years, trying to really say, look, this is what they need. And then we did a needs analysis. Now, what you can say is that we looked at all of our buildings, and what we found was that some buildings were in just dire need of help, and others certainly needed, some sprucing, but didn't need kind of an overhaul. But then we also looked at enrollment and projections. The last thing we would want to do with tax dollars is to spend $100 million building a building that no children are going to, right? That really wouldn't be fair. So, we kind of took all of these ideas about what the community wanted, really then doing a deep analysis of our buildings. We had a kind of a 100-point scale, and anything under 60 was kind of in the red. And those were the schools that we looked at. And we'll go over that in a second. And then again, we looked at the enrollment and the projections. And then the last one, of course, was budget and cost constraints. With this bond, we wanted to make it a $0 mil increase bond. And if we were going to make it a $0 mil increase bond, that meant it could only be $130 million, or to be exact, $129.7 million. So next slide. We'll show you that we also kind of asked, really thousands of people, what are the things that really matter to you? And you can see, innovative, sustainable, efficient, community, high quality. And those are all things that we've tried to really bring forward when making these decisions. But the two big ones, the ones in kind of deep blue, were our lodestones, our guide, to be inclusive and equity. Now, what does that mean here? If you look at our district over the last 10 years, we have two brand new buildings, right? The new Eastern, the new Patton Gill. Now, they're wonderful and beautiful, and I was in them today, but they're really in the same community, right? And what we want to make sure of is that if we are going to get a bond, is that we spend money throughout the district so that all of our students can kind of reap the benefits of it, and that areas that maybe have had lower involvement and investment really get it. And we want to make sure that we really are thinking equitably around how the money is spent, that it's not just in one community or for one group of kids, but that it really would be equitable and then inclusive. Right? We want to make sure, and one of the great things about building new space is that we can bring things not only to a kind of environmentally efficient and sustainable way, which so many of our older buildings we can't, but we have buildings that aren't even like ADA approved. And to be inclusive, you really want to make sure that all of our students have access and accessibility to our buildings. So next slide. So what did this kind of illustrious group of people and survey and community say? They really whittled down to three big things of primary investment. Now, sometimes when school districts go for bonds, they try to make the language as vague as possible. They basically say, hey, just give us money and trust us, right? And that's not how we wanted to do this. We really wanted to make sure that if the bond did pass and the people of Lansing did vote for it, that they would know exactly what their money was going to. And what we found was that the idea of bringing 4 brand new elementary schools to the district was really tremendous. We had about 8 or 9, and the folks on the call can tell you, we had about 8 or 9 buildings that were in that kind of red area, but we had some schools that were just severely in trouble that we knew we were going to have to kind of take down and rebuild. And then we also, and this goes back to the equity piece, wanted to really make sure that if we were going to build new buildings, we wouldn't just do them all in one community, that we were being really thoughtful. So we kind of had that first look, which was what buildings are really not doing well and need to kind of be redone, not redone, but kind of a total new build because it was more sustainable and equitable and everything from, having efficient energy systems and HVAC systems and all of that, but also just, a look of a brand new building, a feel of a brand new building. It really is powerful. It's great for kids, it's great for the adults. It's really, really powerful. But we wanted to make sure that those 4 schools were in the right places, that it was a spread rather than in one community. Then the second piece that, I mean, almost everybody, and when you do surveys of thousands of people, you almost never get like 90% or 85% of people thinking, but it was incredible. And it's almost sad that we even have to talk like this, but we need air conditioning in every classroom. Michigan gets hot. I mean, it also gets cold as it's snowing on April 18th, but May, June, it can get sweltering in some of these rooms, September. How do you expect kids to learn and teachers to teach when it's 90 degrees in a classroom and those, huge cinder block or brick buildings are keeping that heat in? It's just not right. And if we believe that we're going to have a world-class education for our kids, how can we not say that at least we have climate control for our children? In addition, it's not just AC. I mean, that's what we're talking about, but it's HVAC systems. And if COVID has taught us anything, is how important it is to have good airflow and air filters and just a modernization of the air quality of our schools. Super important. And then, of course, as a pedagogue, you just know that having climate control in rooms is powerful. One of the things I always talk about is in Philadelphia, they did a pretty intense study, and they looked at hot days in Philly in rooms that had air conditioning and the test scores, and rooms that didn't have air conditioning and the test scores. And they saw something like a 20-point differential between rooms that were air conditioned and rooms that weren't, same day, same weather outside. So, look, if we really want to talk about what's best for kids and best for their learning, we want to make sure that the environment is best. And so this could give us the opportunity. And then the last one, and this is again about equity, is Sexton. We have a brand new building for Eastern. We put $27 million or something about that into Everett. We have a brand new auditorium, and we have dance rooms and new windows and new whatever. But Sexton, not so much. I love Sexton. It's a great old building. It's this kind of terrific place, but it really needs a refresh. I mean, everything from the concrete to the auditorium, to the doors, to the windows. And this goes back to the equity piece of, if we've got a brand new Eastern, you've got all this investment into Everett, what about, and this is what we call kind of love for Sexton. And I've gotten some emails over the months about, well, why do we even want Sexton, right? Why can't we just close it down? Well, first of all, this community absolutely deserves 3 incredible high schools. And, I've said that as long as I'm superintendent, we're not even thinking about shutting down Sexton. Sexton is a terrific place for our district, but it's also about, again, the student population. We have 1,000 kids at Sexton, we have 1,000 kids at Eastern, and we have almost 1,250, 1,300 at Everett. We don't have the capacity to shut down one of the high schools. And if we did, we'd have to rebuild an entire brand new high school. And that costs, probably $50 to $100 million just like that. So, the idea of spending the money wisely, what is the best bang for the buck, and what's the best really for children? These 3 things came up as what the community really wanted. 4 brand new elementary schools throughout the district, air conditioning in every classroom, HVAC systems in the schools, and then a kind of love for Sexton. So next slide, John. So what are the 4 elementary schools? We're being nice here by just showing the pictures of some cracked walls. One of the things that's been crazy since I've gotten here is, other than that 1 week where we went virtual for COVID right during Omicron, we've actually had to shut down our buildings more often because of facility issues than because of COVID. I really have to give our staff and our kids and our families, the mask mandate, the vaccine mandate for our staff, the social distancing. We have one of the lowest rates of COVID in the area. The Lansing Journal actually did a huge article about this. We're really proud of that. So it's amazing to me to think that I've actually had to shut down Mount Hope and Luton and Willow more days because of like a boiler issue or a roof issue or a sewage issue than I've had for COVID. And so when we were looking at the schools that were really in dire need, four really came to the fore. The first one is Mount Hope. I mean, Mount Hope, a strong wind can blow down. I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but I will tell you that when I brought a bunch of people into Mount Hope to show them the building, every one of them just looked at it and goes, oh my goodness, right? I mean, in this year alone, we had a water main break there. We had boiler issues. We had a sewage issue. You know, it's just one thing after another. And a building that's from the 40s, it's not ADA accessible. The hallways don't fit. You know, for a wheelchair, there's no way to retrofit that. It's just not, you know, something that makes sense. And so, you know, Mount Hope, dire need. Luton, I mean, our facilities director was on the roof of Luton last week because there was water and there was a flood and there was water coming in. I mean, and she had to start, you know, moving the water because of what's happening. We've had I think a gas line there issue that we fixed, and we had some other water issues. It's just, we've got these buildings that they're just not really great for kids right now. And, you know, certainly anybody on this call, you know, feel free to let us know you want to go visit, and we will show you, you know, just the needs, the great needs these buildings have. And then Sheridan Road and Willow are kind of the same thing. And I'm going to show you a map, and you're going to see how we kind of came up with these. So the next slide. Again, improvements at Sexton. You know, if you walk around Sexton, you can see some like beautiful things, but you can also see crumbling cement, and you can see breakings, and you can see, you know, doorways that are from the 40s that have to be redone, windows. I mean, just things like double pane windows and energy efficient windows and better lighting. I mean, there's just so many things that we can do. And as you could see, you know, Eastern and Everett investment, it's now Sexton turn. So what we're going to do, it's things like new ceilings and windows and athletic improvements and a brand new auditorium. You know, Sexton deserves this. And you know, thinking back to that equity and that and that kind of inclusivity, if we're going to have three high schools, all of the three high schools have to have the same amount of love. Next. So again, you know, talking about the spread, Sheridan Road is by far our most northern school. I know years ago there used to be other schools up there, but there's not. And so Sheridan Road, which is one of the schools that are, you know, below our 60 number of what is in kind of dire need, we really felt that the north needed to make sure that they had this wonderful school that they can get. Willow, boiler issues, roof issues, you name it. And it's in the kind of the center of the district. It's an area that needs love, and that we want to give some support. And then, you know, ever since I started getting to this community, I've been told, oh, the South doesn't get enough love. The South needs support. So, you know, I asked, well, what's the definition of the South? And they said below the river. And so when we were looking at schools that really needed, you know, the support, Mount Hope was always our number one. That is the building that absolutely needs a complete rebuild. But then Luton came up over and over again because of their needs, from their roof, from their boiler, from the hallways, just everything. And so Luton in the southwest, Mount Hope in the southeast, Willow in kind of the middle, and Sheridan Road in the north. All of that really shows again that it's, yes, we have schools that are in need, but we want to be thoughtful about where, so that the north, the middle, the southeast, and the southwest. Now, what's interesting is if you look at our regular map of all of our schools in the south west, there's a lot of other schools, but those schools actually are doing much better. Wood Creek and Willow are more modern schools. They have actually some air, and they have things like that. So, you know, we want to make sure that we invest in our neighborhoods, but we also want to make sure that the dollars are spent in the right place. And so again, Luton, Mount Hope, Willow, Sheridan Road. These are buildings that by rebuilding completely, we can now extend a life of 50 years rather than these patchwork things that just are not good. I mean, again, the facilities director was on the roof of Luton last week. Mount Hope, we had to shut down. A wall almost collapsed, and we had to put that up. These are just things that schools shouldn't be dealing with. You want beautiful, brand new, state-of-the-art, energy efficient, green technology with wide hallways and windows and just everything that our children deserve. This could do it. Next slide. And then, of course, the AC for all. I can't believe that in 2022, we even have to have this conversation, but we do. We sadly don't have to have this conversation in a lot of other school districts, and that's, again, about equity. How do we say to families, oh, you should send your kid to Lansing, but they're going to really be very hot for the entire month of June, whereas if they went to another school district, they'd be in climate controlled rooms throughout their career. And so, what you can see, this is a map of all of our schools, and only 8 of our 26 schools have any sort of air conditioning. And that's not always central. This is just any kind of air conditioning in the classrooms. And so the bond would bring 18 schools up to having real central air, better HVAC systems, you name it. So, this, again, it's equity, it's access, it's really supporting the child's learning. So this is what they would get as well. So now this slide is, in some respects, a little sad to me, is that when you look at all of the districts in the area, so the Haslets and the Holts and the Pottervilles and the Waverlys and the Grand Ledges, is that if you look at Lansing, if you combined our regular bond millage and our sinking fund, so all of it together, we're the 4th lowest in the entire area. So this bond, it's only a 0 mil, meaning that the taxes won't increase, so it would stay the same. But I will say that I hope that in 3 or 4 years, we can have a conversation about what it might mean to even just bring us to average, even to bring us to the median, because our kids deserve that, right? We have amazing teachers and amazing students and just a great community. Well, we need to really support them this way. But again, to just hammer home the idea of a 0 mil for this district, we're already the 4th lowest. And so a 0 mil would keep us there. But the next slide is the one that's really powerful. If you just look at the debt millage, not only are we the lowest, we are the lowest by far. We are less than half of what the WIT is. We're half of Hazlitt, half of Holt, half of Bath. And then even the next group up, Mason and Grand Ledge, they're in the high 5s, and we're at 4. So, this millage, this bond, if you so choose, again, this is informational, not advocating, is that if the people of Lansing so choose to pass it, it still keeps us as the lowest debt millage in the entire area. So, that's, I think, really powerful information to know when you think about taxes, when you think about what the school district is asking of the community, is that the district is by far the lowest debt millage in the area. So what does this mean? I'm sure you all understand this. I don't want to be pedantic here, but market value, whatever your home is worth, whatever the taxable value is, the millage increase is 0, right? It's the same taxes you're paying, the same millage you're paying in 2021, you'd be paying in 2022. And that way we're able to kind of just continue to cycle the money for the millage, and that would allow the school district to do these things. So the last slide is just a kind of, if you have questions, I see we have a question and answer thing. We're always happy to do that. On this call, I am joined by a lot of great people. We've got our CFO, we've got architects, we've got builders, we've got our communications director, we have our technology director who can help with the technology. But I am not an architect. I am not a builder. I'm an educator. And what I can tell you is when you create safe and warm and loving and climate controlled and beautiful spaces for children and adults, learning happens. and we have to have great teachers and we have to have great principals and, wonderful community. But if you don't have facilities that are safe, that are warm, that are friendly, that are climate controlled, we're doing a disservice to our children. And so, when the community talked about it, there was a real powerful sense of what it is. So I see the first question. Thank you. It says, if hopefully passed, what is the estimated completion build dates for the 4 new buildings? Great question. So we're doing it in order of like severity. So Mount Hope absolutely is the first. The hope is that each new building would come online every about 18 months to 2 years. So the hope, if we get our act together really quickly and it does pass, 4 buildings in about 6 years, the out would probably be 4 buildings in 8 years. That's kind of the idea. Now, there is some ways that we can do some of the stuff at the same time, but I also want to be really thoughtful to the community, because if this passes, that doesn't just mean, oh, we break ground tomorrow. We want to incorporate the community's voice in what these schools should look like, right? We can't start designing anything. We can't start building anything until if and when this passes. So your voice will be super powerful when we start to think about, well, what's best for kids when we build this. But the hope is 6 years in the earliest, 8 years at the latest ish, barring some sort of, run on steel or wood, and then, who knows, but certainly the idea is 6 years to 8 years. That's the hope. And other than Mount Hope, which absolutely has to be our first one, the other 3, it is yet to be determined based on some more intense look at things like boilers and HVACs and roofs and things like that. Okay.
There was a comment just in the chat. It just said, yes, please support the struggling South Side. So yeah.
I love this. I love all of the Lansing, but I definitely love the South Side. As I think you all know, I'm new here, and it's just so wonderful to go and visit the different schools and the different communities, and I love how much pride Lansing has. That's why I think we're going to do great things here. The ratings for the other schools, oh great. So I don't have that like on me, but I actually have it on my wall in my conference room. We didn't do all of the schools per se, because something like Eastern and Patton Gill are brand new schools, so they were kind of in our green. But I'll get, and we can, John, we can put this on. We can share this, and certainly Rachel, we can get this to you as well. But they did a kind of a deep dive. Bob, you know better than I do, but it was like a 20-point diagnostic on what we looked at and how it was rated. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure, we can talk a little bit about that. And I think we also need to reiterate that it builds on the previous 2 assessments that were done district-wide in 2015, where every building in the district was assessed. And then again in 2018, that was updated in preparation for the sinking fund.
Yeah.
And then for this bond, working with the community committee, we looked at the 12 schools that did not have investment from the 2016 bond. Right. And did, rather than, we also updated the cost of from the 2018 estimate, but we also looked more specifically at the condition of each of those 12 schools, and looking at all the factors from roofs, spoilers, mechanical systems, electrical systems, flooring, exterior envelope, walls, doors, windows.
That's great.
Site,
no, I appreciate that. Nobody wants me to go through and tell you what the mechanicals are, but architects and builders, that's been their grade. And so I know that it was like a 20-point thing where they just
looked at a number of different criteria and then scored each of those buildings on a scale of 0 to 100, and there were 8 or 9, I forget the exact number. Yeah. That were rated poor condition, less than 60 on a scale of 0 to 100, right. Meaning that those buildings are in bad shape. All of them have outlived their expected useful life of 40 to 50 years. They're all 65 to 70 years old. And they need major investment. And then when you look at that a little bit closer in terms of the cost estimates that Chrisman Construction did, the cost to renovate those buildings is about 75% of the cost to build a new building to replace them. And so at that point, and the useful life that you get is double. You go from 25 years extending the life of that building for a renovation to 50 years for a new building. So it's a much better long-term investment for the district and the community to replace those schools than to renovate them.
No, I appreciate that. And, I'm always honest with everybody. I'm a pretty big environmentalist. I think that, we've got to do what's right for, the planet as well as our kids. And, also the fun thing about really rebuilding is we can start with just top-notch windows and top-notch HVAC systems. And so even if we were to kind of, and this is one of the big conversations we had, is even if we were to kind of rehab certain things, you fix a roof, you don't necessarily change the entire HVAC system. You don't, to be real honest with everybody, not that I ever lied, but like on my phone, I have Wi-Fi enabled thermometers at every one of our schools, because when I got here in the winter, we were getting reports that schools weren't having heat. And I kept saying, well, how do we know what's going on? You got to tell me. And they're like, we don't have those kinds of things. And I was like, well, we're going to go on Amazon and we're going to buy Wi-Fi enabled thermometers, and we're going to put them in schools so that we can check, because your children really deserve it. And so, by able to build brand new, we can create systems that really can control the heat, the cool. It's just so much better. And plus, honestly, as gas prices go up and energy goes up, it's really much more efficient for the district. So will the buildings being replaced receive HVAC upgrades pending new facilities? It's a great question. Probably not. Mount Hope, we're hoping to deal with real soon. So putting in, brand new HVAC just to tear it down is probably not going to happen. But if there's a real need, look, we had to redo Luton's roof last week. We're always going to take care of the emergencies, even if we think we have to take, we're going to take it down. Mount Hope the same way. We had to fix a wall, but doing like $1 million upgrade of the HVAC system just to tear it down, probably not going to happen. But we will try to make all of your children's lives as best as we can until the brand new buildings are built.
Ben, I think we should also say that, there's going to be a period of time to get all of the buildings that are getting air conditioning done. We can't do all 16 of them or whatever at the same time. They're going to be in a series of probably 3 buildings or so at a time a year. So that too is going to be spread out over 6 or 7 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would hope. The district is big, right? We've got a lot of schools, and I think it's 18 schools we're gonna have to redo. So, that's my hope, is that we're talking like six years, at the beginning, and then maybe 8 at the outset. And then the same thing for Sexton. I'm not really sure. Bob, you probably know better than I do, how long we think the Sexton refresh is going to take, but I'd say probably 3 to 4 years at the min.
The actual construction, I want to say, is going to take 2 summers. That's when we can get the bulk of the work done, plus part of the school year in between. And that project is currently in the series. There's 2 series of bonds. It's in the second series. So I think right now we're projecting to do design in late 23 so that we can start construction in summer 24.
And then there would be summer 25, and then
I'm trying to do that from memory.
I hope all of the wonderful folks listening know that this is all kind of like we
have it in writing.
Right, exactly. Is things do change. It snows in April, right? But that's definitely what we're working on. And I will say, I've got to give everybody a lot of credit. The bonds that have happened, when you look at the work that has been done, it really has been pretty much on time, pretty much on budget. There's for a district this size, there's always little things here and there, but when you look at it kind of real large, it's been really good. So we're very happy about that, and we want to be good shepherds and stewards of everybody's money. So you show what we've done before and what we'll be able to do if the good people of Lansing decide to do this. Anything else? I mean, I can't see your faces, but I know that you're there. So really appreciate everybody tuning in. I think we do record these, right, Amy? Yeah. So, we certainly, we can put these up if there's more questions. We have a lot of stuff that's available, and, we don't put everything on the website just because, I mean, we don't, but it doesn't mean that we can't send it to you. I mean, we try to put a lot of stuff on the website. We just don't want to complicate things and get things too crazy. But there's stuff on the website. If you have individual specific questions, just email us. John McGraw, our communications director, is terrific. We really can try to do what we can to support you. So.
And my email's in the chat. If you need it, it's online as well on our website. And I put the link to some bond information in there as well.
Great. All right. Well, stay dry, stay warm. I mean, this is ridiculous, but I hear it's going to be 70 this weekend. So enjoy that. Have a wonderful rest of the night, everybody. And thank you all for your support of the Lansing School District.